Yeah, thanks, Ashley. So yeah, I know that you said 30 minutes, but I'm planning actually a bit less, maybe 20 minutes exactly because it's sunny. I had a full day of really like full of meetings today, and yeah, I just want everybody to enjoy the weather as well because it's really nice and it's quite a long time that yeah, we don't have this kind of weather. So apart from yesterday, of course. But yeah, today I'm gonna talk about developing a test strategy, and actually I'm gonna put like some experience and some things that I think about when I'm creating the test strategy document and the plan, basically. But yeah, my name is Rafaela. Some people they call me Rafa, and yeah, let's start, right? So yeah, I'm gonna talk a bit about me before. So I have 12 years of experience now on QA and test automation strategy and the test architecture as well. I basically my entire family works with IT. My dad used to be Visual Basic developer, and my mom used to be a COBOL developer, and my oldest brother C++ developer. So I started to learn coding when I was 6 years, basically, with Flipper. And I got really passionate about the QA and created this blog where you can see posts about QA, leadership, DevOps, programming as well. Everything that I learned, I put there. I try to put there. I have quite a huge backlog, so sometimes I don't even get to post things that I learned exactly because it's not up to date. But yeah, I try to put everything that is more like recent. So I don't know if you can notice by my accent, but I'm actually from Brazil. To be more specific, from a seaside town called Santos, and you can see the picture on the right side of this line. And yeah, Brazilians, they are quite creative in the kitchen. So if you ever go to Brazil, remember to order some local food, and yeah, make sure you go to a kids party as well to have these cheese balls and the coxinhas, which is the box of snacks on the top. And yeah, I moved to London 6 years ago now, and yeah, here I am basically. So about the document, do you need one? Well, sometimes you don't need one if the project is really like short and small, but I always try to put something there in place because it's it helps to identify risks, trade-offs, and the short and long-term goals, like test quality goals, right, for the project. So also improves the collaboration with the team, challenge different approaches, and align the expectations and the visions. So everybody's, you make sure that everybody's on the same page, and yeah, helps with this collaboration across like everybody, right? Everybody has a different experience, so you can just create a document to help with that. So you can start creating the first draft and brainstorm the ideas together with the team, suggestions, and from there you can actually create tickets to track what is going to be needed. So for example, sometimes you don't know what is the tool that you're going to use, but then you can, you know, create a ticket to like a spike ticket to, I don't know, investigate something or create a POC and yeah, prove your ideas and prove your concepts. And then you can actually make a decision on the tool. So the document doesn't need to be extensive. You know, if it's too extensive, nobody's gonna read, really. So it just needs to be really clear to share the vision and the goals, and then everybody can, you know, contribute even after when you decide everything already. If there is something to improve, everybody can go and try to challenge the idea, right? So when you create this document, always think about previous failures and experience to help having like a better idea what, you know, could work or what could not. But always do your research, because, you know, there are new tools and new information every day. So whatever you have used like in the past month doesn't mean that you still can use for the current project or for a new project, right? So I always do research before I start a test strategy. Sometimes you have an idea already of what you are going to use, but even if this, yeah, I just like double check. And another thing that I always put is these roles and responsibilities. So people have this sense of accountability. But to be honest, I really believe in cross-functional teams nowadays. So everybody's responsible for the delivery and quality of the product. But it's always good to have this kind of specialist, because then this person can be the responsible to set up the framework, but then everybody can be the responsible to maintain, right? Yeah, in this document, you can also include things like regression test approaches, how you're going to manage the test data. You're going to create, I don't know, maybe a Docker with the database and everything created already, or are you going to have, I don't know, a before method to create the data for the scenarios, or for the entire feature, or for the entire regression pack, or if you are going to have, I don't know, maybe a script to create this test data. So there are many approaches. So it's always good to yeah, align and check what is the best one for the project. Also, something that you need to consider is if you are going to have, for example, full regression every night, or full regression after every merge to master, or even like, you know, the kind of level of tests that you're going to have. Are you going to have smoke tests as well, or you don't need that? It's just running full regression. And when they are going to be executed. Sorry, I think my dog is barking now. Hopefully it's not gonna continue. Yeah, no. Yeah, so the level of tests that you need to consider as well. Well, nowadays you have so many, right? And you have this test pyramid, and then you need to think what are going to be, you know, the level of tests that you're going to cover, and when you're going to cover, basically. So you have, for example, UI end-to-end tests, exploratory tests, API end-to-end tests, snapshot tests, contract tests, unit integration tests. I might have, yeah, maybe it's not all the tests that I just described it, but definitely there are many more. But yeah, you need to remember this test pyramid. They can, we cannot apply to all the projects, to be honest, because, for example, if you have a microservice project, right, you don't have the UI level. So then you need to think about all the other things, and then you don't really need to worry about this level. I heard about the wheel of tests as well coming up now. I think people start to talk maybe last year or even before, but I'm not going too deeper on that because I think it's a full topic meetup, to be honest, like comparing, you know, pyramid wheel and other level of tests that you can include in your test strategy. But yeah, think about what is going to be the scope for each level. So you avoid duplicating scenarios, you know, duplicating the scenario on integration, unit and UI. Also, questions that you can that can help you to identify the scope for the regression pack can be what are the most critical scenarios that, you know, you need to cover, what are the functionalities the users are going to use more, and with which data. It's kind of risk analysis. You need to check, you know, what are the most used flows and scenarios. And to be honest, you might not have this kind of information up front, especially if you are working a greenfield, a completely new project. but maybe the POs and BAs and even like the UX people, they can help you to identify this kind of risk upfront. And yeah, if it's already like an ongoing project and you just need to update the test strategy, you might have already this kind of, you know, data, and then you just need to update. And yeah, the tools. So nowadays we have so many tools. It's really hard to find, at least I think it's really hard to find the best tool for the project sometimes. But you need to take a lot of things into account. For example, you know, time constraints, what are the long and short-term goals. You shouldn't choose the same tool for every project, exactly because every project is different, and they have different expectations and you know, delivery time as well. So you need to ask questions like, where are you going to run your tests? It's gonna be in, if it's a mobile platform, are you going to use, you know, device farm, or if it's just you know, web, are you going to use Docker containers, Kubernetes pods, or even some cloud platform like, you know, browser stack. But yeah, you need to take this kind of account, these kind of things into account, and also the budget that you have. You know, some of these tools, they are not really free. So yeah, just do this kind of analysis before. But whatever is the tool, be sure that you are leaving room for growth. You need to always choose the best tools and practice that fit your needs. Sometimes you don't even need to have like an automation for the project. You know, if it's really small project, you maybe just have exploratory tests and that's it. But I have seen some people, they think, you know, we need to automate everything, and they blind automate all the scenarios, even like small scenarios that are not adding any value and they are not really critical. But then this is really hard after to maintain, right? Because then you have like 3,000 of tests, and then how you're going to maintain that? You know, you need to be more more specific about what you want to cover, and then try to share the load between the level of tests, basically. This is really hard, I think, you know, identifying how to share this, and making sure that you're covering as much as possible, and yeah, not duplicating the scenarios, basically. But yeah, the ideal is to have you know, health test coverage regression package. But at the same time, you need to think about what is coming in the future, and minimize the threat of having to spend more time and resources redoing systems that are out of date. So yeah, basically the maintenance, right, that I think is one of the things that most of people, they don't realize when they are creating this huge pack of regression tests, automated tests. Always choose flexibility, so you can improve and change accordingly, because things they change so fast that sometimes you need to have this kind of flexibility. Take into consideration what is the language of the development project as well, the knowledge of the devs have on this language, if they are keen to work with this tool as well. If they are going to help you, because I know that not all the companies, they push, you know, the developers to help you with the test, and then it's quite hard to contribute to have this kind of collaboration. But in case you already have, you need to take this into account as well. If you know that the culture of the company is not gonna be like that, then you need to think a bit more like, okay, how can we do this test, this regression test package, and you know, get the tests up and running quickly. But yeah, and also what is the length of the project, if it's gonna be something, you know, 1-2 months, or it's gonna be 1 year. So you can decide, okay, we are going to use this now because we need to deliver this in these 1-2 months. So we need to have something really quickly, or this is gonna take 1 year, and then you have time to improve the framework and create something more robust, basically. And then the standards as well. So this is another thing that it's quite important, but maybe you don't need to put everything that I'm gonna say here, of course. You just check how it is, you know, your team, your project, and if everybody's aligned, basically. Because I have seen some projects, everybody's working their own way, and they create the framework the way they think they should. It's not about right or wrong. I'm not saying that, because I don't think there is right or wrong, but you know, everybody needs to be aligned about the test strategy and how they should create things. Because imagine like a new joiner comes and okay, I don't know how should I do that, because like we have these people doing like that and these other people like doing in another way. So what should I follow, right? But yeah, you need to have some kind of flexibility, but at least some standard to follow is always good, right? So you don't get, you know, messy project, basically. So yeah, adding a standard to the test strategy is something that I like to consider. So we have this kind of agreement as well, like everybody can contribute and say, yeah, I think we should follow like that, and align everybody, you know, the vision about the standards. Also, remember to add name convention. But to be honest, I don't do that to all the projects, but yeah, this is something that you can consider as well. Also, where you're going to store the test data, how you're going to create these test data, test reports, how do you plan to, you know, create them, what do you need to include, if you're going to use gherkin, if you need to have a test closure report. For example, if you have a project that you know that, okay, it's gonna finish now and then we are not going to touch that anymore, then you can have this kind of test closure report and sign off this is done. Maybe you can always like contribute to this project even after it's done, because you have some kind of maintenance, so it's never really done. But yeah, this is something that you can consider if you need to. Also, like things like minimum coverage you expect from each level of test. For automation, what is the design patterns you're going to use? Are you going to follow page object models or something else? If you need to test in different, this is really good because it's quite complex as well. Sometimes you have some projects that you need to think about different locations and spoken languages. So how do you plan to do this during the regression, right? Choosing the top 3 most used ones, selecting just one for the functional tests and having some visual layout tests for the other 2, or even having just 1 or 2 scenarios testing language and location changes. So whatever you decide the approach, just make sure that you know you're going to do this kind of risk analysis and see, okay, we are going to do that because it's really critical. So we need to make sure these languages, they are working fine, and the locations as well. If it's not too critical, maybe you can do some kind of smoke tests. But yeah, just make sure that you know you have this aligned and you have done this kind of risk analysis before as well. On mobile, something you need to consider is the orientation. So this is quite complex as well, because I have seen people doing like functional tests for both of the orientations. I think if it's not too critical, you can just select one, for example, just portrait, which is the most one, or I don't know, the landscape, which is the, you know, the majority of the users they are using. And then you can do some snapshot tests on the other one, or do some kind of mix. So you do 50% landscape and 50% portrait for the functional tests. So there are many approaches, to be honest. You just need to, yeah, make sure that, you know, you are going to do this risk analysis again and see what is the best. And this mobile orientation is kind of the same situation as, you know, the layout responsive test, where you need to check if the browser is gonna render, you know, the website is gonna render as you expect on a tablet, on a, you know, a laptop or a mobile. But yeah, you need to make sure this is working fine as well. Well, you need to see actually if it's critical for your project and how the majority of the user are using, what is the platform they are using. On the last point, which is about functional and non-functional tests, this is more to identify, you know, what kind of non-functional tests you will need, and if you need them. For example, I have worked in projects that, you know, they were not really concerned with security, because this was done by a third party. So we just had to make sure that we were integrating correctly. So then you can think about other non-functional tests like performance, you know, usability. Maybe you don't need that, so don't need to worry about that. And then yeah, you might not have all the answers at the moment as well, because some of the things you might discover after, but just make a note, or you know, just try to have like a note at some point saying, okay, we are not going to worry about that at the moment because this is not coming, or this is not part of the MVP, or we can plan this after. We are going to use maybe JMeter, but nothing is decided yet. But at least you have this, you know, covered somewhere that you need to go through after, and then you need to investigate. Also, there are some difference between mobile and web strategy, right? Because of, you know, the platform, devices, browsers. So it's hard to cover everything, you know. Devices is impossible to cover like everything unless you have a device farm. But then you really need to have like budget for it, right? It's quite expensive. So you can use emulators, though, like they cannot give you the pixel perfect resolution or allow you to see how your app functions are going to work with different real life situations. But at least they are cheap. And then you can test at scale, right? You can run many emulators, simulators at the same time. Well, you need to make sure that you have a good server to do that. But yeah, a healthy mix of real device and simulators, emulators can give you the test coverage that you need. But also you need to make sure that you have budget for it. Or you can just, yeah, do, you know, with just send the test to a cloud and then this kind of device farm and see how it goes. But yeah, we don't have like free tools for that, unfortunately. So yeah, just make sure that you do this kind of risk analysis as well. Maybe the best idea is to, you know, run the regression tests on emulators and then do exploratory tests with real devices. But yeah, this is a different approach that you can take as well. For the web, we have different browsers and different versions. So again, it's quite hard to cover everything. I always try to give a priority for the most used ones. So I follow the data from the users for that project, or even like globally, you know. I know that most of the users, they are using Chrome, or most of the users, they use the latest Firefox. And then I decide what is the coverage for each browser. And maybe adding, you know, some cross-browser functional tests, or just functional tests for one browser, and then snapshot tests for the other browsers is an option as well. But yeah, you need to do this kind of risk analysis again. It's all, to be honest, always around that, like the test strategy, because you need to see, okay, budget, and then also what is the coverage that you're going to have, and what is the risk that, okay, if I go with this approach, what is the risk, but then you're going to save some time when running the tests, and also with the budget that you have. Yeah, the system platforms, right? So Windows, Linux, and Mac. Nowadays, I don't really consider this. I don't, but if it's critical for your project, it's something that you need to take into account, and always remember to put that in your test strategy as well. But yeah, I don't see, yeah, to be honest, I don't remember any project that I have worked in the past years that I had to worry about that actually. But yeah, oh yes, I create this matrix here. Actually, I just it's just an example from this GitHub webpage. You can see the link on the bottom. But oops, somebody is with the mic on. Oh, thanks. So yeah, this is actually to help to remember everything that you need to consider. It's actually missing some things, of course, as you can see, because it's hard to put everything there. And sometimes you don't have the insure at the moment. But yeah, you need to think about, you know, what is going to be the level, and with that, what is going to be the tool that you are going to use, how you plan to run this test. So in this case, you can put something like, okay, we are going to use Gherkin syntax for the end-to-end, but we are not doing that for the unit in the integration or the API level. Maybe you don't need to do that. Also the infrastructure. So are you running your tests on the cloud, real devices, simulators, emulators? Are you going to run, you know, cross-browser, or are you going to have some parallel run? So it's a lot of things to consider, right? If you already know, you can also add something like, you know, gaps that you are going to have, or that you have already, backlog that you can create, you know, for the long-term goals. We want to have that, and then you can start to create the tickets. And also quick wins, you can, if you know already. So, okay, if we do that now, I know that it's not gonna be the scalable or the best framework that is going to be really maintainable, but for the short term is going to give us, you know, value, because then we can deliver things quickly. We don't need to do like manual regression tests or these kind of things, but yeah, you know, on the short term goal, we can do that, and maybe in parallel we can have something more robust, like a framework more robust, that it's going to be like maintainable and scalable, and it's going to be more for the long-term goals of the project. Also, you can take into account, you know, things like, are you going to hire crowd testing for the exploratory tests? Maybe not. Maybe you are just going to do that with the QAs, and maybe even like with the devs if you have a really cross-functional team. But yeah, it's something that you can consider as well. And also things like, you know, are you going to run these tests with reduced scope, or just target testing, you know, when the PR is created? For example, the dev goes there, creates the PR, and then you just run the features related to that change. And then after, you can, you know, you deploy to QA, and then you run some kind of, I don't know, full regression tests, and then you can have running in the evening, I don't know, at midnight every day, performance tests. So it's a lot of things that you need to think, and all these different kind of tests that you need to yeah, have a look if you are covering, right? If you need to cover. And yeah, for full regression, when something is merged to master, or maybe having some, you know, snapshot tests after something is merged to master as well. You know, there are so many different approaches. I could like talk here a lot about these kind of things, but it's just to yeah, just to make you to remember all the things that we need to consider basically, and all the different kind of approaches that you can take and you can, you know, think about when you are creating your test strategy. But yeah, don't worry if you don't get things right at first, exactly because there are a lot of things, as you can see, like yeah, you can even like check how you're going to generate your data for the tests. So yeah, it's really complex, I think, and it's something that I really believe that you need to have, you know, more than one day to create, and also like do some kind of research, check with your team as well if everybody agree with that, or if anybody has a different input. But yeah, I think that's it. Don't worry too much, basically, because this is quite complex. So you are not going to, you know, finish this in 1 day, 1 hour, depending of the project. But yeah, I think that's it. Hopefully it was not too long, so everybody can still enjoy this some. But yeah, this is my blog, my Twitter account, and my LinkedIn. And I think now it's, we can have a look on the chat. Oh, what is that? Ah, yes, cool, thanks. Somebody posted the GitHub link. That's perfect. So yeah, oh, I think nobody has questions, which is good, I think.
Yeah, if anyone does have any questions, we'll give it sort of like just sort of 30 seconds or so people can. I think there's one just come through there, Rafaela.
Oh yeah, cool. Hi, how would you say this different from a test automation strategy? I think it's because you are considering the exploratory tests as well here. So it's basically more, you know, it's a bigger contest. So it's not only about, you know, automation, and also, yeah, you are also considering, you know, exploratory tests when you are going to test the, what would a test, oh my god, so many, no, okay. Would a test strategy be suitable for agile-driven projects? Yes, actually, it's what I said. I don't think you need to have, you know, a really long document, but it's good to align. You can also create, you know, this test strategy document while you go with the project, but it's good to have an alignment with the team, how you plan to do that. I don't think it needs to be extensive. So just try to be really clear and straightforward when you create your test strategy, because it's quite complex. You might change a lot as well. So don't, oh, sorry, Robin. So yeah, don't try to put a lot of things that, you know, nobody's gonna read, you know, like the waterfall before that you create like loads of pages and nobody really cares. Can you talk a little more about the Docker database for the data setup, please? Yeah, I cannot give you all the details, but basically what you can do is something, you know, when you have, if you have your test automation running a Docker, in a Docker container, you can send the volume, and then with the volume you can send the data already that you are going to use on your test. Or even you can spin up one Docker container with the test automation, and then another one with the database, and then this database already contains all the data that you are going to use for the test automation. But yeah, it's something that I have done before. So maybe you can use one of these approaches to yeah, create your test automation with the data already up front, and then you don't need to worry about, you know, creating this during your tests at runtime, and save some time actually. What is the next one? Could you elaborate more on test data management, by the way? Thank you for this great stuff. Yeah, I think it's exactly that. So I gave you guys the example about, you know, the Docker containers, but you can also, you know, create scripts, and then these scripts, they could inject the data already. Yeah, there are quite a lot of approaches, but I think this could be like an entire meetup actually. But yeah, you can create with Docker, you can create with scripts. You can also create, you know, using the before tag, and then create the data from there. You can use the JSON files to just inject the data with API. Yeah, there are many different kind of approaches. I have done quite some of them. I think the one that I use more is basically, yeah, creating the data with the before. But the one that I saw that was more efficient was creating the database with the Docker container, exactly because we didn't have, we didn't need to spend time creating all this data, was just spinning up another Docker container with the database and the data inside. But yeah, what is the difference between a test strategy and a test plan in Agile? What should we use in Waterfall? What would be your recommendation? Yeah, this is a good question actually, because yeah, some people, they call test plan, some people call test strategy. I always call test strategy because I think it's, I don't know, I think it's more like a strategy that we need to think about some different things, and also plan is, I remember that, you know, in Waterfall we used to say more test plan, exactly because it was quite extensive. But yeah, I don't really know if people still use test plan for Agile environment. Maybe they use actually, but I always use test strategy. And I don't really put like more than one page or really extensive things. Sometimes I just use the matrix and just put the, you know, the topics and the titles there and how we are going to do the things. But it's really like straightforward. Everything that I, you know, test plan seems quite extensive, so I try to not use this word, to be honest. What is the best time to create a test strategy? I actually create this test strategy as soon as I join the project and I see that there is nothing in place, exactly to align this kind of views and different approaches. But sometimes you already have something, so you just need to update. But the best time, I would say, is exactly when, you know, everybody's, I have done this before when there was no code at all, exactly because people were deciding how to do things, how to approach things. So as soon as you have an idea of, you know, how it's going to be the project, I think you can start to draft something and think about the different approaches that you can take. You might change in the middle of the way, exactly because, you know, new things are coming up, is an agile environment, so you might change this a lot. For this is I try to, another reason why I'm not, yeah, I don't try to be really extensive. What is the other one? What is your thought on Cypress as test automation? So I have used Cypress before. I really like it, but I think it depends on the project, to be honest, because, you know, I have used Cypress, I have used Test Cafe. I really like it, Test Cafe. And at the time that I had to choose between Cypress and Test Cafe, I remember that I went for Test Cafe instead of Cypress, exactly because Cypress was not covering anything more than Chrome. Not sure if it was the best idea, exactly because, you know, you could have just go for Cypress and then you do the snapshot tests with another tool, which I tried after. I actually have a project in GitHub that I tried Cypress and did snapshot tests, like layout tests with Galen for the other projects. And I think the only problem that I had was that Galen was quite hard to set up. I quite had, you know, to spend quite some time to do that. But I think if it's good for a project and you see that things are going to, you know, speed up the delivery process and it's gonna add value and it's gonna, you know, help the team, and it's gonna, of course, improve the collaboration and the quality, and you can see that, you know, it's not gonna have too much struggle. yeah, I think why not? Just yeah, you just need to do this kind of risk analysis, I think, as I did before. So if you are joining the team laterally, do you still need to create a new test strategy, or yeah, I would say just revise a test strategy with the team. Just make sure that yeah, everything that is there is already what you're following, exactly because you are joining, so you want to understand how they are working and what is the approach. So if they have something already, just go through and yeah, cool, okay, you guys are doing like that. Or maybe you have an idea and nobody thought about that, and maybe you can raise your point as well. This is something, because you are a new joiner, so you can always bring something new to the team that nobody thought before, new experience and everything. So yeah, I always think that is something that you can collaborate and improve, and also to understand how the team is working. But I wouldn't say to create a new one from the scratch unless, I don't know, there's something really wrong, or there is nothing in place. Plus one for a follow-up talk on test data management strategy. Yes, I think it's something that, it's funny, yeah, not everybody considers that. I think the test data management, and it's sometimes it's just neglected, right? Because people just follow the before and that's it. But also it's something that, maybe in short-term goals is something that is quicker to do than thinking about, Docker container and spin up in another database. Maybe it's too much effort to do in the beginning, so maybe for them. Yeah, one for Google, it's a classic question that is asked. Can you give an example of how one can incorporate Docker in the test automation? Yeah, I actually have a GitHub version. Maybe I can post on the meetup. Actually, I will have a look first because I have some examples there that use the test automation with Docker. And I think I have one that I even use Kubernetes as well to deploy, the Docker container. And I remember that I had a problem with them because Kubernetes, I think it was Kubernetes at the time, when you want to get the reports from the Kubernetes pod, I had to do like a workaround. I had to like print out the logs because after the pod, yeah, not the pod, because you can create different things. You can create a job and yeah, I cannot remember all the details, but depending on what you create in Kubernetes, you cannot access the data inside, like, the reports getting after the test automation is done. But yeah, I remember that I had to do a weird workaround. I will see if I can find the GitHub project and post on the meetup group as well. I don't remember what I saw. Yes, I've found. To me, strategy is the company level and define the things that doesn't change across products. Plans emerge from the strategy and contains details for the project product only. Yeah, this is a good point. Actually, might be the no for this meeting. Thanks a lot. Thanks for organizing the for the test strategy. This is the team basically. So yeah, I always share, with the devs and also BAs, POs, exactly because sometimes they need to give their input, like, especially with this, okay, risk analysis, what is going to be the browser that you're going to focus more, and what is going to be the mobile device that you're going to focus more. So I think everybody from the team can contribute a lot, actually, because it's different, there are different things to consider, and you might not have all the answers for everything. But yeah, I think you need to include the POs, exactly because they know how the users are, what is the majority, how the majority of the users they are going to use this product, what is the platform, what is going to be the browser or the device. Also the devs, they can help you with, you know, this kind of test data management, how you can do that. Maybe they have done this already for, you know, for the other projects they have worked on. I think it's for everybody, actually. I really believe in cross-functional teams, so I think everybody should be included in these kind of things, because everybody has a different point of view to contribute. But yeah, I think that's it. And I think that was the last question, right? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, looks like that's the last one. So thank you very much for that, Rafaela. Thank you everybody for joining in at the end there with the questions as well. Yeah, thanks for all the contributions. Again, I'll share the video this afternoon or tomorrow morning. I'll get the slides over from Rafaela, and I can share out the GitHub link as well that she was going to include in the meetup page as well. Any questions from anybody on this, feel free to drop us a message after, and we can obviously reach out from there. But no, thank you everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, guys.